And welcome back to the channel where we talk about only good comics. I'm Brant, and this is Friday First. This is the series where we talk about those brand new #1 issues, story arcs, and character debuts and the like for the upcoming week. This time we're talking about March 12th and 13th. Soon in July, I'll only have to give you Wednesday's date as DC is going back to Wednesday. So I'm excited about that because I always forget to mention that, and then I have to backtrack and everything. So anyway, if you are new to the series, for the past few weeks, I've also been doing a recap of some of the new books that I mentioned on last week's show. I'll read those ahead of time before I record this, and I'll talk briefly about those and my thoughts. So I actually did read, I think I read 5 of the books that I talked about last week already. So we'll go through those in random order. We'll start with Miss Marvel Mutant Menace issue #1. This is the follow up to the last one, which was New Mutant, Miss Marvel New Mutant. So she's in Jersey. Her whole community is afraid of mutants. They've forgotten who she is. Their minds have been wiped. And so they don't remember that she died and came back. They don't remember that she's Miss Marvel. The only one that remembers is Bruno. And so everybody hates Miss Marvel now, or at least a lot of the people in the city do, even some of her friends. And so she's having to navigate that while also being on the run from Orcus and hate groups and some villains from her past. In this particular issue, we get to see Horticulture come back, and she deals with another mutant who's temporarily calling himself the Planter. So some typical Miss Marvel kind of wackiness continues in this book. The same creative team from that previous run as well. I enjoyed the first issue. It wasn't the best book I've ever read, but I did enjoy it. It still had the same spirit and vibe. We didn't see a whole lot of the X-Men here. We got to see them at the beginning, Wolverine's Psylocke and a few of the others, and there were some jokes. It was a fun little moment, but the focus was primarily on Miss Marvel and her supporting cast and her city, as it should be. So I did appreciate that a lot. I felt like we kind of left off in a weird place. This was the week of weird cliffhangers for me, so I felt like it was a bit of an abrupt ending to what felt like a longer story, but then it just kind of ended. Obviously, continued to the next issue, so it left me a little cold with where it ended. But I did think it was a decent enough intro to the series, so I enjoyed it for what it was, and I'm on board for it. I love Miss Marvel as a character. I love when her supporting cast gets to shine as well, and I'm hoping that we'll get back into that a little bit more as the series progresses. So we'll see what happens. Next up, we're going to talk about one that I wasn't as impressed with, was Ultimate X-Men issue #1. This is written and illustrated by Peach Momoko. I had some reservations going into this one just because I'm not usually a fan of her storytelling interior wise. I love her covers, but I could never get into the Demon Day stuff with the X-Men books and stuff. So I was a little hesitant about going into this, and also how I felt about how it meshed with the rest of the Ultimate Universe. And unfortunately for me, this book just wasn't for me. Nothing against it at all. I thought the writing was a little bit light. It could have been a little more depth to it, a little more. I don't know. I don't know what I want from it, honestly. I appreciated what I did appreciate about the book, and I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue tied today for some reason. Was that it focused on Armor, which is a character that we don't get to see a whole lot, and B, that it focused on more of her culture and her environment. And I like that this version of Armor's like outer shell was more like a samurai, almost like an Oni mask actually, but it was more of a samurai kind of thing. And I appreciated that and how it tied into this little charm that a boy had, that apparently has passed away and she blames herself for. So there's a lot of layers here and a lot of mystery, and we had like this mysterious person or entity that was kind of talking to her in the forest or behind the temple or whatever. So there's a lot of elements that have piqued my curiosity. But at the same time, I just didn't love the storytelling behind it personally. Just wasn't for me in that regard. Uh, that said, just because I am curious, if people start talking about this and start talking about the story developing, I might jump back on board. Whether I'm going to read that second issue or not, I think it's going to depend on the week. If it's a heavier week for me, I'm just going to skip it altogether. But I am intrigued at least by the story. But it just kind of, I don't know. It left me feeling a little. Really don't know how I felt about this. And then again, it was another one of those cliffhangers that just kind of ended abruptly for me. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if it was enough to bring me back for a second issue, unfortunately. Next up, um, let's see, what else did I read? I read Birds of Prey issue number 7, which was the start of a brand new story arc. New team involved, which really was only one member. They kind of got rid of Harley and Zealot and just added Batgirl in, Barbara Gordon in as Oracle. So we still had Big Barda, we still had Black Canary, we still had Cassie, another Batgirl. But I thought already I'm more invested in this story. I thought it was more interesting. And it was kind of funny that it ended with them basically on a runway modeling, swimwear, as it were, which is a little odd. But I did like that we did add in Vixen here, and the story kind of tied into Vixen while still dealing with I cannot think of her name, Sin, which is Black Canary's sister. So we are continuing that thread with her, but it's kind of a side story now as we're focusing on Vixen and this larger story that is kind of encapsulating all of the Birds of Prey and kind of bringing them back together. So I thought at least it was interesting in that way, that we had multiple storylines going on and that they meshed well together, and we got a couple of new characters added to the mix. Felt more like Birds of Prey to me. So I already like this arc better than the previous one. So we'll see if it continues to be good and grow from there. Next, we have Void Rivals, issue number 7. You all know how much I love Void Rivals, one of my favorite books. I love everything having to do with the Energon universe. This was the start of a brand new story arc after a short break. And where we left off with Derek and Solila, where they were escaping into the wasteland, and now they're stuck there. But apparently, Derek has been there before and knows how to traverse this place, and so it seems like he knows more secrets than he's letting on. And he's also very wary of Solila. So we had some of that classic Robert Kirkman storytelling here. Some silent panels of little side glances and that kind of thing. Some mistrust between the two unlikely companions continues. So I appreciate that. We got a glimpse into this other character, Proximus, who is apparently has some history with the leader of Solila's people, and he's a violent person, but there was a little bit more to him that kind of maybe told a little bit more about this people, and then could kind of further connect them to this larger world, especially in a Transformers world. It was a very interesting reveal that I'm not going to spoil here. Also, the symbol on Proximus's head looked a little like it might be combined. So maybe he's a result of the combination of these two races, these two people from these two planets, which was interesting as well. A lot of mysteries that left me with a lot more questions than answers, and I appreciate that because it's got me hooked. It left on a decent note, even though this cliffhanger was very abrupt as well. And I was like, oh, that's it? It felt like there should be more story there. Again, almost every book left off like that this week that I've read so far, so it was really weird. But overall, I enjoyed it. It's got me very excited for what's to come. So that's Void Rivals. And last but not least for those books is the Spectacular Spider-Man issue number 1, Spider-Man, sorry, which is the team-up book with Miles Morales and Peter Parker. And it's written by Greg Weisman, who you may know from the Spectacular Spider-Man animated show, from Gargoyles over at Dynamite, from Young Justice, acclaimed writer and artist Humberto Ramos, who is one of the now legendary Spider-Man artists. Love his art and perfect fit for Spider-Man characters. So the premise of this book is Peter and Miles had decided to have a weekly check-in, just hang out as friends, no spider shenanigans, or as they called it, as they dubbed it here, arachnobatics, which I love that name, by the way. And of course, being Spider-Man characters, it went awry almost immediately as a hulked out version of the Jackal starts raging and they have to fight it. So we get a lot of flashbacks here to the past of their meetups and how they started going to this coffee shop and started meeting people from both their pasts. And also we got some weird interjections of random characters falling in love and don't know how they play into the larger story, but obviously we're hinting at some tie-ins to a larger story going on. One of the past characters was from Miles' past, who picks off this like thing about research and this way to make some extra side cash, and that seems to hint that that ties into the Jackal and this love stuff and everything going on around it. So it's an elaborate story that we're just getting little hints of in this book. I thought it was a decent start to the book. I thought some of the Easter egg jokes that were thrown in there were trying just a little bit too hard, but they were still funny. You know what I mean? Like the Spider-Man feeling like he's, been in high school for 60 years, that kind of thing, or Miles trying to get out of high school for the past 10. So obviously those are a little wink and nod to the audience, which I thought was cute, but just a little bit much at times, but still funny. It's kind of one of those weird things. Like, I don't know how I felt about that joke, but I still giggled at it, So yeah, I thought it was a decent start. Again, we ended abruptly with the cliffhanger here, but I still enjoyed the book. I loved looking at the art. I thought the banter between Miles and Peter was fun. It had the energy that a Spider-Man team-up book should have. A little bit of lightheartedness, but still some danger. So it had everything that you would like in a Spider-Man book, and it was definitely more entertaining than the main Spider-Man book, which is really these days all you can ask for. So in that regard, I really enjoyed it. But that's going to wrap up all the recaps from the books last week. So let's dive into those books that are coming out next week. All right, we're going to start with our one and only honorable mention this week, which is Ghost Rider Final Vengeance, issue number 1. I'm throwing this in there because my good buddy Mike Spiderslayer reads Ghost Rider, and he's talked about the character for a while. Benjamin Percy's still writing the character. He's been writing the character for a while. This is featuring a brand new Spirit of Vengeance. Johnny Blaze is also in this book. So if you're it's also an extra-sized first issue, 48 or 40 pages. If you are a Ghost Rider fan, you'll probably want to check this one out. Or if you've been somebody that hasn't gotten into the Ghost Rider books, but you're wanting a jumping on point, this seems like the perfect one. So there's your honorable mention for Ghost Rider Final Vengeance, issue number 1. Next up, we have Helen of Windhorn, issue number 1. This is on my radar because it is an indie book written by Tom King, art by Bilquis Evely, which I did see one preview page from the interiors. It looked gorgeous. And, Tom King's work, it's hit and miss for me. Some of it I really love. Some of it bores me to tears, to be quite honest. And that's just personal preference. Nothing disrespectful to Tom King, who is a fantastic writer when it's on point. But I've never seen him do an indie book personally, or I've only read his Marvel and DC stuff. I don't even know if he's done any indie work. If he has, someone can let me know in the comments, but I haven't checked it out. So Helen of Windhorn is from Dark Horse, and it's got me curious. It says it's Conan the Barbarian meets the Wizard of Oz, so already I'm intrigued by that mashup concept. it involves this estate, which stories that are based around an estate kind of gives me, House on the Hill kind of vibes, or that kind of thing. So I'm already intrigued by that. There's um, like tons of secret hiding places and hallways and stuff like that in this manner. So I'm getting like Clue vibes and that kind of thing. So that's already like hooked me as well. You have this character whose father died, and he was a pulp writer and creator of this warrior character. So that's I don't know. It's like a little meta because Tom King's a writer and he's writing about a writer and the descendant of a writer that's in this mysterious manner. Beautiful art. So I'm already kind of hooked with this. At the same time, again, hit and miss for me. So I'm actually going to give this one a possibly good because I really don't know what to expect with this one. I'm hoping that I'm going to enjoy it, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know much about it at all, except for what's written right here on this description and what little I've seen of it. So I am definitely going to check it out, and hopefully it will, blow my expectations away. Next up is Little Black Book issue number one. This is from AWA, and again, this is for some person's deceased father has left him something. So it very similar in that way, but very different. This is a black book containing contacts from the underworld. So you got like a crime story here, and this guy is just like a handyman, and he falls into this information, and obviously that's going to upend his life. So that's got me curious. It's a Western thriller, so you're adding that to the mix, that it's taking place in like a Western setting. So that's kind of interesting as well. So it's got me curious. This is written by Jeff McComsey with art by Chris Ferguson. And, AWA books, some of them really are really good and really like get me invested into the story. Others, not quite. So we'll see which one this one falls on, but I'm going to give this one a possibly good. Then we have Suicide Squad Dream Team issue number one. This is written by Nicole Maines with art by Eddie Barrows. And this is spinning out of Titans Beast World. So it's kind of continuing Dreamer's Tale from that story, and bringing together an odd collection of Suicide Squad here. So, I'm going to check it out. We got Harley Quinn, Bizarro, Clock King, and Black Alice, and Deadeye in this team. So that's an interesting group of characters there. And Amanda Waller's like whole involvement in the DC universe right now is really interesting to me. So I'm going to check it out. I'm going to give this one a potentially good, just because of the characters involved with this. And I thought the Dreamer story was decent in one of those tie-ins for Beast World. So we'll see if this one continues to build onto that well, and if these characters are indeed interesting enough to keep my interest. Next, we have I Heart Skull Crusher issue number one. This is from Boom Studios. I think it is part of the Boombox, maybe the Boombox line. So it's one of those sports books, but this is an odd sport. It's called Screaming Paintball. And this is a 18-year-old girl who's wanting to play the sport really bad, will do anything, and it's like involves a bunch of misfits. It's this deadly sport. She wants to be the best. So these kind of books, they are either really just kind of quirky good or just kind of there. And Boom has done like really good stuff with these sports books before, though, and this is just like this made up odd kind of sport that kind of puts me in mind of, oh, is this like dodgeball meets like roller derby? Is that kind of the vibe we're going for here? And if that's the case, it could be right up my alley. I actually used to watch a lot of roller derby stuff, and like extreme dodgeball just sounds like an interesting concept for a comic. So The art looks kind of funky here too. Really dynamic style, kind of bombastic. If that's the way the interiors are, it could be fun. So I'm going to give this one a potentially good because I don't know. It just sounds like it could be a lot of fun. So we'll see. Then we have Symbiote Spider-Man 2099, issue number 1. Peter David writing uh, 2099 Spider-Man again. And this one involves symbiotes in 2099. So we've already seen that a little bit, right? So this is just more of that. So it's like I always read these Spider-Man 2099 books, and I don't know, they just haven't quite captured the allure of those original stories for me yet. I think some of the miniseries we've seen have been pretty decent. Others have just kind of been there. So we'll have to see which one this one is. But for some reason, this one in particular, and the Edge of Spider-Verse little teaser we got for this story was pretty good, I thought. So it was a nice lead-in, nice introduction to this, which made me a little more positive about it going into it. So I'm going to give this one a potentially good because that kind of showed me the potential that this book could have. And again, some of these Spider-Man 2099 books I actually really like. So I'm hoping this is one of those. All right, we're getting to my last two books. First one up here is from Image Comics, Napalm Lullaby, issue number 1. This is by Rick Remender and artist Bingle. And that's just like a phenomenal, top class creative team right there. So that's already, a solid win in or check in the win column for this book. It's a dystopian story where this child with crazy powers has been raised to believe that he's actually God, and there's this whole theocracy created around this character. I'm assuming as the book continues that image or self-image is kind of chipped away at, which is going to be an interesting story. The art, obviously the cover art here looks amazing. The concept is really interesting, and when you're dealing with that kind of society, obviously there's a cult built up around this, as the description says. So it's already got a lot of things that are like piquing my interest here. So I'm going to give this one a promisingly good. Not ready to say it's going to be positively good yet, but it definitely has some promise going into it just from the creative team alone, and the concept, like I said, is just really piqued my interest. So I know Mike Spider-Slayer and Kat Kamakuno from Comic Book Weekly are interested in this one as well. I think we're all going to try it. So hopefully we all like it. We'll see we'll see what our thoughts are come Comic Book Weekly. And of course, I'll let you know next week. I'll try to make sure I read this one so I can let you know my thoughts on this one on the next episode of Friday First. And lastly, we have Black Widow and Hawkeye issue number 1. This sees Clint Barton accused of an assassination. Obviously, Clint Barton accused of something is nothing new. Black Widow comes to his aid. This assassination puts the United States and Madripoor at odds, and Clint Barton is right in the middle of it. So calls on his old pal Natasha Romanoff to come to his rescue. But she's equipped with the symbiote right now, and so that comes into play here. Their past kind of catch up to them, things from the past. But this is going to be interesting to see them pair up. Stephanie Phillips is writing this. I'm a fan of Stephanie Phillips' work, so already a win there as well. I love these two characters. I love it when these two characters come together. They have such a rich history. And obviously in recent years with the MCU, we've seen some of that history play out on the big screen as well. So I'm excited about this one. I think it's going to be really good. I'm giving this one a promisingly good, and hopefully it exceeds my expectations for this one. But I am excited about this book. And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Friday First. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're enjoying the format of me recapping stuff. And of course, if you did like this episode, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel. and hit that subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss any of the episodes or any of the other content I have going up on the channel. Of course, you can follow me across social media at Only Good Comics, and type in onlygoodcomics.com on your browser to head right back to this YouTube channel so we can talk about only good comics. Until next time, thanks for watching. Take care and keep reading those comics. See you soon. Bye.